p.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I see the future in our public school classrooms every day. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. I also see how critically important parent and community support is to our students' success. Support your public schools. Get involved. Form a business school partnership or become a school volunteer. Great schools and great communities work hand in hand.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I believe every child can succeed. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. Research shows that children do a better job in school when parents are supportive. In Nebraska, parents have a long tradition of being involved in our public schools. That's one reason our students consistently score in the top 10 on national tests. Working together, we can help every child succeed.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
What up? Good morning, Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. You are not seeing any second coming of Eclipse. We are live in effect, even though I've been gone the last few weeks, so I apologize. But we are here early, bright and early, 1040 O Street, at The Ticket, the mecca of sports radio in the state of Nebraska, right here in the great city of Lincoln, the home of the Huskers. And we're going to dive into a little of spring game preview, which we are, well, actually a week from today, we will be recapping the spring game, the second one in the Matt Rule era. And we'll do a little bit of a sports recap, Harrison, before we get into it, because my second favorite sport, or one, all my favorite sports are in the playoffs. Hockey, basketball obviously played last night, baseball's getting started. And then obviously a little bit of golf, but basketball playoffs last night. The Nuggets did what they did,
expected
what they do at home,
despite the free throw discrepancy.
Despite that, despite the good first half from Anthony Davis and LeBron, I think the championship mentality, just kind of the continuity. Everybody, Harrison, the one thing about sports, it's like, I don't know if you've ever noticed, there's like these, I call them hashtags. They change every 2 or 3 years. Like back when guys would get drafted in the NFL or even basketball, but more, I've watched the NFL draft. It was it's surreal, right? So that was about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came I'm grinding, right?
Yeah, I actually remember that one.
I'm a dog, right? And then as far as the teams and how teams perform, that changed as well. Remember, we can even go back to the middle of Mike Riley, and he wasn't here very long. So I guess you could just say after the first year of Mike Riley, you heard stuff buy-in, right? Yep. Then we had a little bit when Frost was there. We got to get buy-in, right? Culture, accountability. So the hashtags are going. But I think if you want to look at a organization that had a plan, basketball-wise, that had a plan, And what people don't realize, they copied the Golden State Warriors kind of blueprint. They
In
have
terms of like just developing and keeping guys around.
right. Well, look at the play. Look where the Golden State Warriors, when they drafted Clay, Draymond, Steph.
Mhm.
When they did it, then Clay had a spot just because he's big enough and he could shoot, right? But Draymond didn't have a spot. You had to have a coach that would say, okay, I can make you into a new position, point forward, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have to be hellified on defense. We'd like you only shoot 6 shots a game, and 3 of those might be, putbacks and fast break points. And we're gonna actually make you a featured player, but you got to earn your stripes. People don't realize Draymond's first 2 years when he was in preseason, he was killing folks. He had step backs and everything. And then you had Steph. Remember when he got drafted, they was like, he's a defensive liability, bad ankles. You can't play him late in the quarters or halves or games. And so he was like a one-trick pony. Well, it ended up being one of the greatest runs in our NBA history. What did Denver do? Their best player, and he's gonna be a Hall of Fame player, is the Joker. But when they drafted him in the second round, they had no intention that he's going to be this good. But you have to have a coach like Mike Malone in an organization that's going to allow him to develop, right, get up to NBA speed. But then they accentuate what he really does well, and you don't even know what his deficiencies are.
It used to be defense. Can't even point at that anymore.
Right. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
When the Lakers won the last championship, Anthony Davis ran him into the ground. That's how they won. LeBron's going to do his thing. Now they had Caldwell Pope and all those, and those are crucial people, Caruso and all those other guys, right? So Lakers pretty much, feasted on themselves by not signing those guys back, but that's their choice. But you've seen the maturation of Joker. You got to think that to go from, let's just say, getting embarrassed, right? Because I think Jamal Murray played out his mind then. That's when he was supposed to be the starter, right? Then remember he got hurt the next year.
Yep.
Getting embarrassed, you might not come back from that. And then to develop into probably the most dominant offensive force right now, the most consistent and dominant.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
You can't stop.
No, on a humbug, right? Just say he's on the third game of, say they went back to back, day off, fly back to Denver, and say me and you decide to go to Denver. And he's tired. We know he's tired, right? He'll give you 22, 12, 7 assists, and just, probably go home and have a couple shots of, vodka or whatever, just to relax, right? And go straight home. No pregame workout, no nothing. He just balling, right? And it's commendable. And that's when you think about culture and building a team, how they've done it. They had a plan and they stuck to it because they said, you know what? Instead of us saying, we got this guy coming over here from, I think he's in Serbia.
Yep, Serbia.
Serbia. He's not as fast. He's not flashy. Doesn't play above the rim. But guess what he does? He can control the pace of the game. He has great assist to turnover ratios. He's physical inside, and actually his pace of play, because he plays at a high rate at his rate or his speed, is a problem. And he's very, very smart. And what does he do? Now we get Jamal Murray. We take the pressure off of him to be a high volume dribbler, shooter. So what they've done is increase Jamal Murray's efficiency. I call it efficiency rating. And then you got Porter. He finally stayed healthy, right?
Yeah, and they stuck with him despite all the spinal injuries.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with Steph Curry.
Right.
Injured a lot in the past. They stuck with it.
Right. That they don't draft. See, the problem I think with a lot of professional teams, they draft you, and we'll see it in this draft. We'll talk after this next NFL draft, right? Fast forward 6 months or a year, they be like, "Oh, he ain't no good." All right, we got to draft another quarterback. If you want an example, look at the Chicago Bears.
Don't do that to me.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's a perfect example.
Chicago's going to Chicago. And then here you are. And this is Justin Fields has deficiencies. But you have to understand, like, the greatest quarterback of all time right now is Tom Brady. He didn't do some of the things that Justin Fields did early in his career. He was throwing the ball 10, 11, 12 times until he started to mature. Why? What did they have? Consistency, belief, a culture, a structure, and a plan. And, if you want to look at somebody like Denver, they had it, and it looked like AD was there to play. And I do think, though, even though the Lakers have played in Denver probably 4 or 5 times this year. I do think that first game, I think that I was not a believer of the mile high thing generally. I was not.
Okay, not buying in the altitude.
I said I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we go up there and play Colorado, we beat the brakes off them and stuff. So it didn't really affect me. You know what I'm saying? We got up there, I think, by junior year, Harrison, and got up on them boys. And it was like running in quicksand. I was like, I can't catch my breath. But it was like you can't catch your breath, but you're not tired. But you ain't moving like you're supposed to be moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that got up on the Lakers. And I think some of the Lakers guys, D'Angelo Russell didn't play well. That's not going to happen. He's been a bright spot for the Lakers. He played horrible. I mean, he just didn't shoot good.
That's the problem. He's the X factor of that team.
Right.
And his shot come and goes. And it's been like that all season long. So they got to hope playoffs he picks it up.
Hey, is it the ghost of the past, though? Remember last year?
Mm-hmm.
It might be Denver.
It might be.
They got a dime on him, right? Do you remember that after was it game 3 last year?
I think might have been that game. Game 3. It was game 3. Yeah.
And they got, it was again the same replay.
Mm-hmm.
Great game by LeBron. Great game by Hachimura. Great game by obviously Davis, or for him. And homeboy's out there shooting. And it's like, but at that game he had a ton of turnovers. So I was like, you need to probably go watch some tape before you start shooting. So there's some problems. And obviously, my team, the Timberwolves, Ant-Man, put you on. Did you see?
Talking to KD?
Have you heard the audio?
I didn't. There's actual audio of it. Oh, I gotta listen to that. Probably can't play it here though, can we?
No, it's not. Was it NSFW? Not safe for work. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But Ant-Man gave him the business, and put the league on notice. And I've always been a Timberwolves fan, and I'm a KD fan too. But I was happy for the Timberwolves. They played well. So then also the other big news was the boxing match last night.
Mm-hmm.
Garcia against Haney. Haney was like, I'm not a betting man, but if I would have paid more attention to it, I should have just laid $100 down. I mean, Haney was an overwhelming favorite based on Garcia's performance against Tank, his last big fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Garcia, who says he, drinks every day, I think that's kind of in his thing. I don't know if are you into boxing?
I'll pick it up for the big fights. I can't be honest and say I watch every single fight.
Yeah. So when I was your age, and I know you weren't watching boxing then because you were probably just, little tight. They had a guy, I think his name was Manuel Mayorga. And so what he would do to intimidate guys is he would come in and have a cigarette, literally smoking a cigarette. And he had power though.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he started fighting against like Oscar De La Hoya, it just didn't work out. He was getting slept. But anyways, Ryan Garcia, he was saying all through his training camp he was drinking, and then he said did you see when he chugged a beer at weigh-in, and then he didn't make weight. Supposedly gave Haney $500,000 per pound, so he gave Haney $1.5 million. He bet $2 million on himself. He essentially won $12 million on him. Now these are all good. He won $12 million if he put $2 million on himself. Then he won another $600,000. Another side bet. But it was an impressive performance though, and I doubt the way he looked, physically. There's no way he was drinking every day.
No, a lot of that's to sell the fights.
Yeah, sell the fights.
Like you got to make it a show,
right?
And that's one thing UFC does well. Boxing for the longest time has struggled to kind of get fighters to really promote themselves,
right? And that's where Dana White is taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what they're trying to do. But I watched it a little bit, and my man was not. He was throwing hands, and he was accurate as all get out. And I think that Haney didn't respect his power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect example of whether it's football, basketball, or anything. If you don't respect your opponent in any competition, you're gonna get beat.
Especially fighting.
Yeah,
that's one you can't sleep on anybody.
You could just get caught slipping.
Mm-hmm. It takes, especially with people like that have that true one-hit power.
Right.
Like it just takes one mental lapse, you'll be on the floor.
Yeah, and I think he got surprised from the very beginning by his power, and then he was hitting him. He was connecting with both hands, and that's the problem. That's like a equivalent of a golfer getting on the tee and you got a two-way miss. It's just a matter of time before you ain't winning. So it was a good sports night last night. Obviously, Husker football had a scrimmage yesterday.
Yeah.
Matt Rule did talk,
which
I thought was pretty cool because I'm not sure he talked last week, didn't he?
Yeah, he talked last week as well.
Yeah, so I think the thing that you take out of it, he talked about some players and the big thing that we'll get into the second segment is, along with some of this other stuff he said was the quarterback competition will go all the way into the fall, and that's the way that's the way you want it. And it's good to keep it close to your vest. It's hard to at the quarterback position the way I've read that they have it structured. They're giving everybody equal reps and equal opportunity. You know what I mean?
That spring league is doing a lot for him too.
Yeah, but the one thing. Well, first of all, for me, can't speak for you. It took me a little while to figure out, okay, like what's the dynamics. But then once I figured out the dynamics, the names, the bug eaters and the snakes or whatever, that's fine. That's pretty cool. And then they get to be like GMs and stuff and trade a couple guys and stuff. I don't know if I'd sit next to you, Harrison, if you traded me, man. Especially because the winners get like a fancy dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just imagine if you got traded
right before the dinner.
And then the team that you were on gets the big dinner. Oh yeah, we got some static. But anyways, I think what it's done though, and I think it's parts of the practice, they do it. It's created like competition. So it keeps everything fresh. Sometimes with, spring ball, things can get monotonous. Wouldn't say it could get boring, but it could be like Groundhog's Day. Okay, we're going, it's a 2.5, 3 hour practice. We're going to run into each other, the same group of guys. I think when you get into competition, it brings a different energy level. And I think it brings a accountability level as well, because when you're competing. And I think that's one of the things that Matt Rule is trying to instill in guys is to be self-motivated and compete with everybody or anybody that comes in the huddle. And if you want an example of it, Harrison, I want your opinion on this, is like the defense last year. You remember the first game last year? I think in the first 2 series, Tony White and those guys played 18 guys. 18. I mean, when I play, look, us 11, we just getting warm, right? 18 guys. And so what that lets me know is every job is going to be earned. And even when you aren't the starter, you still can earn playing time. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think some of the problems before was if you weren't a starter, then you were just essentially, when you went to practice, you were just watching. Now you see, and just because they have the 3 stations and stuff like that, which they're trying to get that's how you up the development, and everybody's working and earning their keep. And people always, one of the main questions I get mostly when I'm at High V is, why does it seem like this coaching staff is so confident that they're able to develop players? Well, guess what? We just talked about the Denver Nuggets, right? We talked about Golden State. They have a plan. They're recruiting to the plan, i.e. draft. And they feel good and they feel confident in how to develop players.
And guys are sticking around too. He pointed that out in his press conference. You don't see a ton of Husker players hitting the portal.
No, and probably the ones that have hit the portal, you understand it. You understand, and you know what? They'll help them get to a spot that they'll be successful at, and it's just a difference. Sometimes you get passed by, sometimes you get here and you just don't develop and it doesn't work out. So I think that and that's part of Harrison is development. The one thing that I think that gets kind of like missed in this transfer portal, NILs differently, but I think this transfer portal thing is like, yes, it's a lot of it's fixated on. I do think finding the best opportunity for you. Sometimes, the majority of the time, it doesn't work out that way, but that's what you're jumping in there for. But I also think that if there's a lot more cases, and we saw this here probably before Matt Rule and those guys got here, is a lack of communication. I think the one thing that people always, the easy excuse is like, oh, the athletes aren't the same as they were, when I was around, or even maybe a little bit after. Oh, that is true. Kids are different, right? But there's the one thing about athletes, and I can only go off because I coach young athletes, is if you're straightforward and you're truthful and you're consistent, they can handle the message as long as it's not personal. And I think sometimes people don't know the difference. Now, I will tell you this day and age of athletes, everything's personal. But you have to start the conversation is, this isn't personal. This is trying to help you, and I'm coaching you to make you a better player to get to all these goals and lofty aspirations that you have. And so I think they've had hard truth with guys, and they give them a plan. Say you're in the quote unquote doghouse, and they give them a plan how to work themselves out of it. If you want an example, look at Tommy Hill. They gave Anthony Grant numerous opportunities. They didn't start off their tenure with Matt Rule very well. They didn't. No. You weren't even allowed to practice the first time. First. Who do? Like, if you got a new coach, just like if I was in the NFL, we get Harrison, you're the new head coach or D coordinator.
Right.
And I ain't come to off-season workouts and I'm missing. That does not start off good.
Then you're 20 pounds overweight and doing all this stuff.
Right.
It's accountability.
Right.
Keeps everybody accountable.
But then they don't put you on the milk carton. And, when I like Bo. I think he did a great job. I remember when you get in his doghouse, you ain't never getting out.
That's the best coach I've ever been able to watch. So
yeah, but I think he did. I think he done so much good. I respect. You look the way what he did. He had it in the right position. So he did some good stuff. But I just remember, like, hey, you get in that doghouse, bro. It's gonna take half a year to get out.
I do remember that. If there was a player and they got yoinked, probably we're gonna see him pop up again later in the season.
No, once you get pulled there or with him, you done for the year. And see what happens is kids take that personal because everybody has a bad day coaching. Everybody has a bad day playing. The team doesn't play well, now if it's consistent along with off the field stuff, right? This is where it could be a problem. And this is where you look at what at least Kermani McLean up there with Colorado, look at how Deion handled him. When a coach tells you, you got to show up, you got to work hard, you got to be invested, you're not even studying tape, that's not personal. Now, and that's why it doesn't work. So that's where you see guys like in that case, I understand why you're not playing anymore. But what the thing with Matt Rule and staff is you don't get started. It's probably a change for some of these guys. It is. Or was, and now I think it's a lot more cleaner and guys know the expectations. And I think the guys that really welcome those different expectations and accountability, so forth and so on, are able to coach some of the young guys. Because that's the hardest transition to go from high school where you're the big dog on campus, kind of can sleepwalk your way into being successful, show up on campus with a big head, a lot of, fanfare. And now you got to get to work. And so when you have older guys that can kind of police your team and motivate and regulate your team, I think it works out well. And that's what they're probably seeing a lot of fruits of their, early labor. And I think Matt Rule talked about it in this last press conference where they were able, even though they were 5-7, they were able to get a lot of things done in that first year when he talked about situational football, trying to, obviously he wants to set the expectations as far as turning the ball over and all the things that you got to work through, all the while he had a chance to, they were 5-3 going into with the last week or last month in November. So those are things you can focus on, both positive and negative. When you're in the spring, you can replay it and not just bury it. It's like, oh, it's the first year. We're expected to go 5-7. I think he's using a lot of the things that they did well and not so well as learning tools for this spring, because it's constant evaluation, it's constant building. In order to get to where everybody wants, fans, alumni, players, coaches, you have to have the details. You have to have situational football tidied up. It is. It's important, man. I mean, it's probably the most important thing. In this next segment, we're going to obviously talk about what we'd like to see in quarterback play. And everybody's just going to look at passing yards. And that could be smokescreen, because you could have a defense out there that missed 5 tackles and you throw a 5-yard hitch and now you got an 80-yard bomb. Or you could have somebody that plays very, very efficiently or plays the game of quarterback very well. So it's based on where you're at as a team, offensive philosophy, and what you're looking for right now in the 2024 season. I think sometimes, Harrison, I want you to think about this during the break, and I will as well. Sometimes people want to see the end product in the present day. They forget. Jay Foreman, when I was out there in 1995, was not Jay Foreman that left in 97, 98. Jason Peter in 1994 was not Jason Peter and Grant Wistrom, the ones that left in 97. It just doesn't happen that way. Tommy Frazier, when he was a freshman, wasn't the legendary Tommy Frazier when he left.
Mm-hmm.
You get experience. You have some ups and downs, and you have to battle through those, and then you get the end product. Then you get the All-Americans and all the other stuff, and that's how you become a consistent national champion or get back into national prominence. So we're going to take a quick break. Come back inside the huddle. Brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. Jay Foreman will be right back.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
I see the future in our public school classrooms every day. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. I also see how critically important parent and community support is to our students' success. Support your public schools. Get involved. Form a business school partnership or become a school volunteer. Great schools and great communities work hand in hand.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
High schoolers, unleash your creativity and learn about potential careers in broadcasting at the Digital Expressions Media Camp. Have fun, make friends, and get hands-on experience with video and radio production June 9th through the 14th at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Scholarships are available from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association, and spots are limited. Learn more at digitalexpressionscamp.com. That's digitalexpressionscamp.com.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
Mike Minner, what's up, bro?
When you look at Dylan, you're looking at quarterbacks that kind of come around once every 20 years. And this is a kid I'm looking at, I don't know how old he is, 17, 18 years old. And he is already directing things that 17, 18-year-old kids should not even know. Changing the line protection. Okay, guys, I don't know what we've been 2 weeks of practice. Come on, man. Well, we got guys in the National Football League that can't do that.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions. Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
What up? We're back. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. You can take care of all of your imaging needs, and then obviously, in my case, diagnosing some of my injuries and helping with a game plan to alleviate some pain. So I am a consistent and willing customer, and I would not put my gold stamp on them if they did not do good work. Dr. Raz and Dr. Finn, always honest, able, and willing to help anybody. But spring game preview. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback position. And the one thing I think from Matt Rule's presser yesterday, at least I didn't listen to it, but I just read some of the notes. He said and I haven't really watched practice, but he said that the Heinrich Harburg is showing some improvement and from last year. And I think Heinrich was very open, as much as a kid knows how to be open about. A lot of athletes in this day and age don't be like, man, I need to get better at this. It's
Harburg's always worked hard.
Yeah,
you give him credit for that.
Right.
Like people were hard on him last season, but changing your throwing mechanics got to be the hardest thing, especially when you're thrown in that position,
right?
Not expecting it, and and I think he kind of talked about that. Still, his problem is that elbow. He's like when his throwing mechanics, but I'm not sure if that's what they're talking about, like getting better at. But I'm sure they're talking about the throwing mechanics, maybe just understanding the game a little bit better.
I think it probably goes into all of it. I mean, I think when I think a week or so ago, Heinrich was getting interviewed, and he said, look, doing it in like position meetings versus doing it when I'm out there scrimmaging is two different things. So it's you have to have constant mental reminders of, doing what I'm trying to improve on. And he's obviously been doing it at some sort of, fashion to where coaches have taken notice. I think what helps it, I think it's all, all inclusive. Like when you you really recognize what you're deficient at, and now it's twofold. You have to recognize it with the coach, and they got to match up, because I can't be thinking as a linebacker, all right, I just need to get better in inside run tackling. They're A and B gap, and he's like, my linebacker coach like, bro, you ain't getting to the outside runs very good, and you're not tackling in space, right? So you can't be on two different spectrums. So I think it's really good where you have, a quarterback coach comes in and obviously evaluated him, and probably obviously had some notes from Marcus Satterfield and obviously Matt Rule as well. Had a game plan. He's obviously attacked it. He's recognized it and worked on it to the point that where he got recognized that he's made some improvement. And you asked about what the knowledge of the game. Sure, another year in Marcus Satterfield's offense, you have to be ahead of where you were last year. But then you have to apply all the things that you have to do in playing the position of quarterback to play better, all the while trying to compete for a spot. So it's a lot of pressure, and I think when you work hard and you're putting your best foot forward, that's where you get some recognition. And then obviously because of the what he's done to play, I think is worked out, and it only could be a positive for a team.
Yeah, and I think people got to take, I know a lot of people with the Kalen Inrail both showing up feel like Harburg's kind of falling off the minds. Like he's still going to be a big part of this. He might be QB too. And we've seen QBs get hurt how many times here? Like he still might have to be ready this upcoming season. Well, sure. It's going to be a competition to the fall, but I mean, people I feel like are kind of putting him too low of a spot. He might be QB2 starting the season, and we've seen what happens.
If I'm Heinrich Harburg and I'm, if I'm talking to if it's me, right? Say if I was in linebacker position and I'd played last year, I'd say as a true freshman, because that's what he was. He never,
tight end.
Yeah,
first play of the season.
Well, he went a whole year without his coach purposely not coaching it. Mark Whipple, which I don't necessarily I could label you as a coach. I get it. There's kids I coach in basketball. I'm like, yeah, bro, this might be the last go round. But I'm still coach you, right? If I'm him, I'm laying in the weeds. I got my head down. I'm grinding, right? I'm putting in that work, but I'm laying in the weeds. I like it. First of all, I've taken more snaps than anybody else in that quarterback room in the Big Ten play. I've won some games. Right now, it doesn't matter how pretty it is when they say who was the starting. It's like when you're a pitcher and you win a World Series, right? in a game in the World Series play or in a MLB playoffs. They don't look at your stat sheet. Now, granted, they'll say when you had a great game, but 1-0 as a winning pitcher. I've won some games in the Big Ten. So those are the things I'm going to try to have in the back of my mind as I'm trying to improve and maybe catch up on some of the things that these two incoming freshmen are just a little bit ahead of me. And that's just playing the position of quarterback. And that's just the evolution of today's athletes. The young athletes are trained, they're coached, they're put in situations all year round to help them improve and make that transition easier to play college football at the position of quarterback. And so if I'm Heinrich, I'm laying in the weeds. There's no pressure. There is no pressure on him. Outside, there's
for him personally, but outside, there's not a lot of noise.
Yeah, he wants to show what he can do, right? He's competitive. It's the chance that he feels like if he plays well, he can, shock the world. But there's no pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really recognize that, it can actually allow you to accelerate your learning process, be more freer mentally, right, and make a huge jump in improvement. And maybe that's what he's doing, or what he has done here, in the short spring or short few 3 or 4 weeks in spring. And so it's commendable. And so we're right in the quarterback room and talk, and people, everybody's gonna just look at how many yards they throw for, or the completion percentage and stuff like that. I think the biggest thing for all the quarterbacks, because as I just mentioned, Heinrich Haarberg has a leg up on starting experience. He doesn't have a lot of starting experience. So it's not like he started 2 years, right? But he started some games in the Big Ten. So the gap isn't that much. So they're all almost at the same starting point. The biggest thing for me as quarterback is how you command the offense and command the huddle as a young quarterback. That's your starting point, because that's how you start every play. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the base right there. I got to see who's doing that at a high enough rate. And then I want to see you play the position of quarterback. Look, I'm sure they're going to have the rosters kind of not messed up, but just all spread out. So you can't expect the continuity that you would get as a veteran. You can't expect what, like Ohio State would look at in their spring game, or other teams that have guys that played with each other. And so you want to see who can execute, because you might be able to make the right read. You might throw the ball in the right area, and you have a receiver that drops the ball, or you might do the same thing, and the receiver or tight end might make the wrong read, right? So I want to see these guys execute if I'm a coach, because as a coach, they know what they're looking for on every play as a winning play at that position, more than anybody else. That's me, you, any fan, any person that's watching from an all 22 or watching a replay on the Big Ten. They know better than we do. That's why you see some guys play more than when the masses, you got to get them out there, because they know what it takes and what they're looking for. And so that's all I'm going to look for in the spring. It's a good, everybody, you're going to be on display. You got two freshman quarterbacks. They are impressive as all get out. I don't think anybody had a better recruiting year in the quarterback position than Nebraska in the whole nation. There's no way that you could have. I mean, you got the number one quarterback, and then you got another guy that was a Elite 11 quarterback and a strong 4-star.
And he finished higher than 11, so that's 2 top 10 QBs.
Right. You got two top 10.
Good.
You got 2 top 10 QBs that have come in and competed and don't stick out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to people that have been at practice. You haven't seen any. A lot of times with freshmen, you see them out there. Well, at least from my experience, even when rookies would come in, they'd be in there skipping balls. They 8 minutes late on an out route. I just heard these guys just kind of fit in and doing their thing and competing, and they don't know any different.
Well, he got there early. That helps. Yeah. So you've talked about that a lot. But I mean, the fact, Kalen still got to, he's still got to go back, walk the graduation stage for his high school. But that's a lot, especially you got 2 freshman QBs in there. Yeah. And then Haarberg, like you said, he's got a year of experience, but you don't really have a QB in there that's been there, done that can really relay the message. Haarberg can to a degree, but getting there early was huge. If we're going to see a jump of development, they had to get there early.
Well, I call it the competitive gap, right? Because if say you're a linebacker, Harrison, you had 4 starts, right? And I'm coming in as a freshman, and I get here in January, and also now we got a new linebacker coach, right? So the same guy that evaluated you last year. Now, granted, Marcus Satterfield's still the offensive coordinator, But now we got a specific, say we're playing outside linebacker. Now we got a specific defensive end outside linebacker position coach. Now we're all on the same starting point. Now you do got to head up on the experience, but I can lessen that gap by being here at the same time, working hard and competing against you. So versus if I just showed up in June or July, these guys starting in January, you're 6 months behind. Now you're 6 months ahead. And also, I think it's really good when you have two young guys that are going to push each other, and then you got Heinrich Harburg that's going to push them as well. And also, I think for a coaching standpoint, it gives you some flexibility. Because you got Heinrich Harburg, that obviously gives you a very unique skill set as far as running the ball. And then you got two young freshmen that have shown the ability to play quarterback and play pitch and catch. And so you can kind of, I'm looking at it like, if you remember Harrison back when Urban Meyer was at Florida, they had Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. And it worked out well for him. Won that national championship. Now, granted, if we had Chris Leak and or Tim Tebow, we'd be good, as their finished product. But it's how that you can kind of stair step some young guys in with a veteran guy and not lose, the ability to take advantage of Heinrich Harburg and his skill set. And that's the one thing, whether it's Matt Rule but the whole staff, they've found ways to get the most out of guys in their skill set. And so when you look at the quarterback position, again, I review it. Command of the offense, command of the huddle, executing what they need to do. And then I want to see who is really, show some leadership out there. I want to see, that's what you need to do as a quarterback. The age thing, I get it. That's an experience thing, right? First of all, I will tell you this. This is the honest to God truth, Harrison. I got nervous before every game. 9-10 years in the league, I'm nervous before every game. That's because you care about it. Never was scared. But, as a freshman, probably I'm thinking back when we played at Oklahoma State Thursday night. I went from redshirting, right? This is kind of like the quarterback position. I redshirted, so that means I ain't playing. And there was guys that I was competing against all from the spring and through fall camp. I eventually beat them out, obviously, that had starting and playing experience. But it wasn't so much, it was a guarantee. But when I tell you, your boy had cotton mouth and probably had a case of diarrhea, Harrison, in Oklahoma or in Stillwater, and it was hot down that bad boy. So not only, Harrison, just think about this, right? When they say don't pee down your leg or you know what in your pants, I was probably this close to doing it. That's the honest to God truth. First of all, I hadn't started a game since high school. So, my, playoff games in high school, just say it's November. Whole year. Now, granted, but then I played in the spring game. Okay, that's fine, right? It's just it's a big screen. And I'd had a ton of practice reps. But I ain't played in the game yet. That's on my mind. I'm the new starter because generally majority of the guys were known and really had legitimate start. So I'm the new dude. Number 3, we defended national champions. Mind you, I think I was still living in the dorms over there in Able. All right. So
nice place.
Yeah, I do. But I still was in the dorms, right? Number 4, we're on national TV. Number 5, I got bubble guts because I'm nervous, right? Number 6, it was 1,000 degrees out there.
They target you on that first play too?
Oh yeah. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into that. So
that's coming, especially if you're hopping in there fresh. They're looking at you.
Here's the deal, man. We'll tell you about this, and then we'll get back into football. I'm nervous, and Coach McBride comes up. I had that. He probably knew I was nervous. First, Mike Minner, before we got on the plane, we almost got in a fight because he was trying to check my temperature a little bit. And I was trying to play cool like I wasn't nervous, but I was on edge. And that's just the way I'll snap on you quick. So he wanted to see where I was at. And I didn't know what he was doing. You know what I mean? He wanted to see if my mind was right. Because he had played before, started. Everybody's, look, dude, you just coming literally out of high school. Just took a year off to get your head beat in. And he wanted to see how quick I could turn the switch on. I threw the helmet down. I was like, let's go. And he's like, he just was like, okay, you ready? So then I'm thinking about that, but I didn't let it go though. You know what I'm saying? Because I was looking at him like, man, if I could sucker punch you right now, I would die. I wonder how much trouble I get in. So then then Coach McBride comes up to me, right? He probably knew I was nervous or something. And I rode over. I used to always ride over to the game with Octavius McFarland, and he played the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, Debo, you nervous?" And I'm like, "Bro, yes." He's like, "You'll be all right." Coach McBride comes over to me, and he's like, "You nervous?" And I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "Yeah, you are." So he looks at me, takes out his dentures. I didn't even know he had dentures, right? I'm like, "What the heck is he doing?" He said, "Listen." He looked me dead in my face and was dead serious. He's like, "I believe in you, but if you go out there and play scared against these dudes, I'm gonna knock your I'm gonna knock your teeth out. And you're gonna look like mine." And I was like, "You serious?" He's like, "Yeah." Right? Now he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right? He never would lay a hand on a player. But that's how nervous I was. So we get out there, Harrison. Now, mind you, I played the game, in my mind. And I don't know if T.O. always wanted the defense out there or not, because, we scored at will, eventually during the game. I don't know if it was because of me getting me out there so I couldn't be too nervous, because you go out there, you warm up, quick warm up, coin toss, boom, defense up. Ain't no time like the press. Harrison, I was like, am I really ready for this? That's what I'm thinking. But then it came to the point. Here's one thing I told myself. I am not going to get blown up. That's not what I'm going to have. I might not make a play, but I'm running into everybody 1,000%. They're like, that's not going to happen. Because I've always felt like if I'm physical, first of all, everybody else is great enough, they hide myself, then I'm going to have the respect. So we break the huddle. And so it's called traveling. So I always traveled with Jason Peters. So wherever he lined up, that's kind of like I would be on that side. Or no, Christian Peters. So I'd line right, I'd pretty much held his hand or whatever. And the first play of the game was an ISO. Seriously. Like, ISO play was essentially fullback, linebacker. We trying to gut you. Right? My first college snap, and you nervous. So generally they tell you like to play at like 4 or 5 yards. Hey, I was at like 3 yards, and I seen it open up, and I shot through there and didn't know any better. Blew the fullback up. Then me and Mike Minter made a tackle. Then it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, all right, I can hang a little bit. And that's what they're going to go through on Saturday. There's nothing you can simulate in practice to get used to playing in the game. And that's the great thing about the spring. And when they play in the fall, hopefully they can draw back on what they learned in the spring. But the quarterback position is going to be, an ongoing competition. And I also think that if you want to look, Nebraska fans, if you want to look back on how they could possibly, evolve during the season, is Scott's second to last year, we went up to Minnesota. And they had, I think it's Tanner Morgan, right? He seemed like Tanner Morgan was at Minnesota so long, he started to take on the look of PJ Fleck.
I was just going to say that.
He
literally looked like PJ Fleck.
He came in with a full head of hair, left bald.
6 years?
Yeah.
Was it over there? I think.
And he was a good passing quarterback and knew the offense, right? And when Minnesota really played well, they had Mo Abraham, he was running the ball, and they were just consistently. And then, they had good receivers, but they were, run first, play action. So really low risk. But down in the red zone, that's when they brought in Kramer. And he gave us problems. And he could throw the ball good enough, because down in the red zone, yes, defensively, everything's tight. But when you have a true running threat when you can put pressure on the edges, then you either throw it to, A or B or out of bounds. And that's it. And it wasn't just the red zone. It was 3rd down and 3. They'd get us a couple times. And then once you have some success, now you got the defense on your heels. Then you can gut you with Mo Abraham. So if Nebraska can also evolve from that. So what I mean by that is that this coaching staff will continue to find ways to get the max out of everybody in that room. And you saw it last year where they game planned every game to win the game. And people didn't realize it or didn't see it. Now, it didn't look pretty at times, right? But you can see, okay, I see how they're trying to win this game. I see defensively how they're trying to win this game, offensively and all this other stuff. So it's an ever-evolving process. So I think the biggest thing The quarterback room is look at those three things that I talked about. And then we're going to take a quick break, actually, and come back. And I'm going to say what I'm looking for overall in the spring game, along with some other things. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. Quick break. We'll be right back. Put a bow on this early morning. We'll holler at you.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
General, tune into the Movement Hour each Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. Movement Academy owner Robert Kuhlman will host the show as he introduces new ways to stay in shape. The Movement Hour every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
When you're in New York, Nick, in New York, I mean, you're talking about, you see mafioso types. You go into a restaurant and you would literally eat. Hey, come on over here. You know, they I don't know how to say it. I don't got the accent, but they would say, come, Strick, come here, come over. Have a drink on me. And what are you going to do? Say no?
You not say
you
no
don't
to that?
say no to the drink. You don't say no.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
The Drive with AD and Raph.
Albert Breer posted his comments about Bill Belichick from the Coaches Clinic. Adam Schefter retweeted it, so they're up to like 787,000 views right now.
You think about this, AJ. You've been in the league for a long time. You've been around, played against him. He's coached against you, etc.
Mm-hmm.
He's 72 years old. What's going to be the fit for you? What are you looking for in an organization?
He's been the mastermind on defense and kind of not controlling, but accountability is high, and he holds you to it. No matter who you are.
There's a standard.
Because remember when he was at New England, Tom Brady, or the guys that were on that squad, Seymour through the years, like no matter what, he treated everybody the same and talked to everybody the same.
Weekdays from 8 to 10 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
Well, we're back. Quick segment before we turn it over to my man Pete Ferguson. But spring ball, look, what I want to see or what I'd like to see is obviously no turnovers, except for ones that are legitimately forced. So what I mean by that is, like they say, oh, you're talking out both sides of your mouth. No self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, like you'd rather see a corner making a great play as opposed to just a quarterback throwing it where nowhere near close.
Yeah, and one thing I do think is not all interceptions are equal or created equally.
Yeah, I can sign up for that.
Call
a 50-50 ball for a reason sometimes.
50-50 ball, or bad catching technique by a receiver, a tip ball by, a great play by a linebacker or a nickel or something. And, just one of those plays that, they're on scholarship too. But the turnovers that I don't want, I want to see, good quarterback or center quarterback exchange. I want to see excellent ball technique by our running backs and quarterbacks. And I want to just see better ball handling. And that's what you should want. Just a clean game.
I just want to see no mistakes on special teams.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to get that too. I want to see a clean game, right? Clean game. Turnovers happen. If you get a guy that makes a great play on a, say he jumps a route and makes a play, hey, tip your hat, dude. You get extra Whopper at Burger King. I used to love Burger King. So, and then, that's offensively and defensively. You want to see good tackling, good play entry, spatial awareness. Offensive line, I want to see see them get some movement. I've heard they've created and worked towards getting more depth. I think they've had a good, I guess, off season per se, or spring or winning condition in spring. And then special teams, you just want to see them, clean in the kicking game. And then, I don't think they'll do any directional kicking or anything like that, but, good lane integrity, good blocking. And special teams is a football play. So anytime that you can, so like if I'm covering kicks, I want direct access plays. If I'm returning kicks, I don't want direct access plays. If I'm on defense, I want to be able to create more direct access plays. On offense, we want to eliminate it. Direct access means, and we've seen this all the time. There's a couple years ago, we were playing against Wisconsin. I think Mickey was still the coach. And we had the ball, a chance to go and win. And number 95, somebody missed the block, and he was right in there, and he messed up the quarterback running back exchange. I call that means you got direct access to whoever has the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so what in a big scheme of things is, and I think Matt Rule might have mentioned it or alluded to it, or, I'm sure he knows he's been coaching forever, is that the more pressure that you can put on your opposition and make them beat you, the better that you are. The better chances that you win. Better that you create your own opportunities. It's a better chance that you, get a, I guess, dumb luck or turnover. That's what the Patriots used to do. They would just tighten on you. And they knew a team would break. So we're trying to build that. So anyways, good spring preview. Looking forward to coming back next Sunday, and having a good report. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Pete Ferguson is next. This is Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle. Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Dr. Finn, Dr. Razdan. Appreciate their support. We'll holler at you next week.